I'm going to give you a crash course on mid-segment. Okay, and this is the part we did not get to yesterday. So if you will take really good notes right here, I will let you use this on your quiz. Don't anybody leave class. That was on the video. I'm going to let you use this on your quiz. So we are on page 309 in your textbook, looking at example 3 that you see there. So go ahead and get that in front of you so that you do not have to redraw this triangle here. Okay, if you need to pause the video just for a minute to get all that set up, get you a piece of paper. You can use this piece of paper on your quiz today. Okay, so make sure you're doing this so you'll use that to help you as you go along. Okay, a mid-segment. Here's what it is. It is a segment that connects the midpoint of two sides of a triangle. Okay, in this picture, DE is the mid-segment because E is the midpoint of CB, D is the midpoint of AB, and it is connected. So this piece right here is considered a midpoint, a mid-segment. Okay. Now, what do we know about midpoints? It cuts the two sides into equal parts. Okay, you guys know this. A midpoint gives you two equal sides on either one. Okay, either side of the midpoint, you can mark them congruent to each other. Look for a picture like this. If you see a triangle and they've got a segment in the middle and they've got congruency marks, you know for sure this piece in the middle is a mid-segment. Okay, in a mid-segment, if this happens, there's two other cool things that are going to happen that you know for sure about your picture. One of them, your mid-segment is always parallel to the opposite side. Okay, please draw a little small diagram like this. Okay, I've written in my little arrows. The mid-segment is always parallel to that opposite side. Okay, here's a second fact that is always true about mid-segment. The mid-segment is always half the length or the distance or the measure of the opposite side. Okay, half of the measure. So, if my mid-segment is 3, you could tell me what is this opposite side. Well, 3 is going to be half of whatever this measure over here is. So that other measure has got to be 6. Okay. What if I told you this opposite side measure, could you give me the mid-segment? I think you guys could do that. What if I told you that this opposite side is 15? Your mid-segment is half of that opposite side, so what's half of 15? Your mid-segment would be 7.5 in that scenario. Okay, so mid-segment is going to connect the midpoints of two sides of a triangle. You got a midpoint on this side, midpoint on this side, connects those two midpoints. The segment right in the middle is called that mid-segment. Okay, now they are going to make you kind of show that you know some stuff is true about these. Okay, what are we going to show? First of all, if you're looking in your textbook, you have a nice triangle and they give you the coordinates for A, -4, 1. They give you the coordinates for B, 8, -1. They give you the coordinates for C, -2, 9. They do not give you the coordinates for DE, but they're going to say that DE is a mid-segment. So you know that E has to be right in the middle. Part A, this is the part you need to work with me. We're going to find the coordinates of D and E. So let's start with D. How are you going to find the coordinates of D? Well, you know it's got to be the midpoint of A and B. So what is your midpoint formula? We do need to remember this. Your midpoint formula, this is where you take your x's, add them together, divide by 2. Take your y's, add them together, divide by 2. If you forgot it, you need to review it and you need to know it for your test tomorrow. Okay? So can we find the midpoint of D? Let me see if I can get all this in here. Midpoint of D, let's take our x's. -4, 8, You're going to add them together, divide by 2. Let's do the same thing with your y's. Okay. If you were to punch this in the calculator, be very careful. Make sure you do your numerator first, add them first, push enter, and then divide by 2. But a lot of times it's real easy just to do it in your head. -4 plus 8 gives you +4. +4 divided by 2, it's going to give you 2 for your x value. 1 plus -1, what's that give you? 0. Divided by 2, 0 divided by anything is just 0. So the coordinate for D is at 2, 0. Okay. Can we do the same setup and find the midpoint for E? Okay, here we go. Okay, X's. E is in between C and B. So take -2 plus your other X, 8. We're divided by 2. Same thing with your Y's. Okay, let's simplify. -2 plus 8 gives you +6. +6 divided by 2 gives you 3. 9 plus a -1 is 8. 8 divided by 2 gives you 4. So E is at 3, 4. Okay. This is also in your book. You can see ABC. It's right there for you in your book. I do want you to actually do it as we go along here, though, so you will get the practice. Remember, you can use this on your quiz. Okay? You cannot use your textbook on your quiz, however, just this paper. Now, they're going to ask you to verify or to show that DE is parallel to AC, or that AC is parallel to D. How can we show that two things are parallel to each other and make sure we know that for sure? We're going to prove it to somebody that doesn't believe us. How can we prove parallel lines on a coordinate plane? This is where we need to think about slope, because they're leaning the same direction. They're never going to cross each other. They're going on in the same direction. So slope is going to give us that direction that they're leaning. If they both have the same slope, that is going to prove that they're parallel. How do you find slope? If we're on a coordinate plane, we're counting rise over run. You guys remember this? You're going to get your difference in your y's, check your rise, and then your difference in your x's to check your run. Okay, so let's do the slope of, it doesn't matter which one we start with. How about we find the slope of AC? All right, here we go. From A to get to C, how many do I rise? Now, look at your y values. You start here at 1 on your y. There's your y. It starts at 1. It goes up to 9 on your y-axis. So, how many units are there in between 1 and 9? How many do you rise? That's going to be a rise of 8. Look at your x's to get the run. -4 is where we start, and we go over till we get to -2. So how many did we run from a -4 to a -2? If you're at -4 and you go back to -2, that is a run of 2 units. So reduce it. 8 over 2 gives you 4. Now be very careful. Is this going uphill or downhill? Going uphill, it is positive, but make sure you check that. Okay. All right, now, can we check the slope of DE? What are we looking for here? If they have the same slope, then that's going to prove that they are indeed parallel. If they don't have the same slope, then they're not going to be. Okay, so let's check it. From D to get up to E, check your rise first. We are actually at 0 on our y-axis, and we're going to rise up to 4. Well, how many units is that? Well, that's 4. Check your run. You are at a 2 on your x-axis, and you run over to an x of 3. So how many units are between 2 and 3? Your run on this one is 1. Going uphill, positive slope. 4 over 1 reduces down to +4. When you check your slopes, did they give you the same slope? They sure did. What did we just prove? Or what did we just show? Or what did we just verify? We just verified that AC has to be parallel to DE. If that works, yep, we got it. We can prove it. Now, let's think about this last one. What if somebody says, I don't really believe you that DE is going to be half of the measure of AC. How could you prove it to them? How could you show it? If we want to verify that the length of something is half of the other one, what is length on your coordinate plane? What formula are you going to use to determine the length of something? Here's where we use distance formula. Okay, so now let's use distance formula and let's plug it in. We need to remember distance, x1 minus x2 squared. If you learned at x2 minus x1, that's fine. I always just start with my first x first. It does not matter as long as you go in the same order. Okay, so let's find the distance of DE. Okay, plugging in your x's. Doesn't matter which order you go. I'm going to take, and I'm going to go from D to E. So 2 minus 3 squared. Fill in the rest. Okay, here we go. Let's simplify. 2 minus 3 is a negative 1. Negative 1 squared is a positive 1. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is a positive 16. You are going to get the square root of 16, square root of 17 when you simplify. That's the distance of DE. For right now, I'm going to leave it like that. We will take it to a decimal in just a minute. Okay. Next things next. Let's find the distance of AC. Please plug it in with me. Now, I went the different direction on this one. I started with negative 2 and went to negative 4. It does not matter which way you go as long as you keep it consistent. Okay. Negative 2 minus a negative 4. Subtract your x's. Square it plus 9 minus 1 is your y's. Square it. Minus a negative is always going to change to plus a positive. Okay, here we go. Negative 2 plus 4 gives you a positive 2. Positive 2 squared is 4. 9 minus 1 is 8. 8 squared is 64. Okay, add those together underneath. This all simplifies to the square root of 68. Now, what are we checking on? We want to know that DE is half the measure of AC. Okay, what you need to do, I'm going to leave you with this. You need to take your calculator and punch in square root of 17. Get the decimal for it. Punch in the square root of 68. Get the decimal for it. What are you looking for when you get those answers? It's got to be true that DE is half of the measure of AC. So see if this number is exactly half of that number. Check it. You're going to have some decimals in there, but check and see. If you divide this one by 2, is it going to give you this decimal? Okay. You can use this on your quiz. Remember, midsegment is a segment that connects the midpoints. It is going to always make parallel to the opposite side, and it's always going to make it be half of the length of that opposite side. You will need to actually prove that or show that, verify that on your test tomorrow. Okay? So thank you very much for your attention. Please do well on your quiz. You can use this paper, no book. Bye-bye. I'll see you tomorrow.